29 years have passed since the January 20 tragedy. President Ilham Aliyev, First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva, and representatives of the state and government paid tribute to the memory of those killed in the name of Azerbaijan's independence in the Aliyev Martyrs. On January 20th of 1990, the military units of the Soviet Army attacked the people who took to Baku streets and squares with their just demands and strong protests against the aggression of Armenia, presenting territorial claims against Azerbaijan and its patrons, the leaders of the dead USSR, showed unprecedented cruelty and committed bloody crime in Azerbaijan. The shooting of civilians who rose up in the struggle for the national freedom, the territorial integrity of the country, hundreds of innocent dead and wounded as a result of large-scale terror, once again demonstrated the criminal essence of the totalitarian Soviet regime on the eve of its collapse to the whole world. The bloody terrorist attack against the Azerbaijani people, the cruelty of Soviet army machine, went down in the world history as one of the most serious crimes against humanity. The tragedy of January 20, which resulted in great human losses, the killing of innocent people, vividly demonstrated the resilience and courage of Azerbaijani people, their desire to fight for freedom and independence, the unwillingness to continue to endure the treacherous policies of the criminal imperial leadership led by the central government. January 20th entered the history of Azerbaijani people not only as a day of pain and sorrow. January 20th is a day of courage and heroism. This day demonstrated the greatness of Azerbaijani people who had managed to bravely resist the power of the empire, to stand against their cruelties, not being afraid to declare their rights to independence and freedom. These events clearly demonstrated that the Azerbaijani people are determined to fight for the restoration of their rights and sovereignty. Unfortunately, the then leadership of both the USSR and Azerbaijan, being the direct organizers and perpetrators of this bloody crime, naturally didn't take any measures to uncover this crime and bring the criminals to justice. On the contrary, they did everything possible to hide it. The next morning after the January 20 tragedy, the nationwide leader Aliyev arrived at Azerbaijan office in Moscow to share the grief of his people. The exposure of the bloody action committed by the imperial regime in Azerbaijan by the nationwide leader was the moral support and comfort for the people. In those difficult days, the people felt that they were not alone in their grief. Having worked for many years as the first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Azerbaijan, first deputy chairman of the Council of Ministers of the USSR Aliyev was a member of Politburo of the Central Committee and fell into disfavor of the leadership of the Soviet Union and retired. In those terrible and bitter days, despite all the deprivations, he was again with the people. With his statement, Aliyev in fact gave an assessment to the process taking place at that time in Azerbaijan, along with drawing attention to the unequivocally unjust attitude of the USSR leadership to Azerbaijan. The great leader strongly condemned the Soviet government, who appointed a politically illiterate person with slavish thinking who caused a deep precipice between the people and the government. This gap served first of all the interests of the center and thus caused further problems, or more specifically the tragedy of January 20. After several months, on November 21st of 1990, the Supreme Meclis of Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic gave a political and legal assessment to this tragedy under the leadership and initiative of the nationwide leader Aliyev. In this historical document, the perpetrators and those responsible for committing political and military aggression against Azerbaijani people were identified. After the fall of Soviet power and the restoration of state independence of Azerbaijan, the then leaders of the republic, engaged in the struggle for power, didn't take any purposeful steps to investigate the causes of this grave crime and give it a political and legal assessment to establish the perpetrators of the tragedy. Only after the return of the nationwide leader Aliyev to country's leadership, the events of January 20 were given political legal assessment in 1994, and the names of the criminals were announced to the public. The martyrs who fell for the freedom of Azerbaijan will remain in people's memory forever, and the family members are surrounded by care and attention of the state. Issues of political protection, pensions for people who became disabled during the January events are always in the center of attention of the head of state. Constant measures are being taken to ensure the social protection of the members of the families of martyrs and the disabled. First of all, a legislative base has been created for providing pensions for families of martyrs, improving their living conditions and raising their standard of living. The head of state issues relevant executive orders and decrees in this regard. In addition, new health centers have been built in the country for the rehabilitation of disabled people. Every year, the social welfare of families of martyrs and disabled people is further strengthened. Growth in the economic potential of the country is clearly manifested in the living conditions of such people. President Ilham later reached at the Eternal Flame Monument. The national anthem of the Republic of Azerbaijan was performed.